Hey, just before we get to the video, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and please consider liking this video if you enjoy it. Comment below if, say, you find something wrong, or you just want to say good job. In any case, please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you're really dedicated as a fan, ring that bell. It'll notify you anytime new videos are up, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hello and welcome to I Can't Believe It's Not the Mouse, the podcast all about animated features not made by Disney. I'm your host, Octaviano, and today I'm talking about a movie that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. Honestly, I've actually teased it for a while. I believe the earliest instance, assuming it was left in the video, I'm pretty sure it was. I've been teasing this was as far back as the Illumination episode, where I mentioned that I was going to do an anime movie the following week, but in the end I ended up doing Sausage Party because it was closer to the 4th of July, and after that I just kept on getting issues, so it's been put off, but it's here finally. I'm talking about the movie Belle, the Japanese animated feature made by Mamoru Hosoda. Hope I'm saying that right. If you remember, he's the guy who did the first 2 segments of the Digimon movie, and he's done other movies like Summer Wars. I know a lot of people like The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which I have never seen, and I really should change that. I should see that one sometime soon. But this one is his most recent feature. It actually came out in the US just this year. It came out in Japan last year. But it's pretty much another retelling of the whole Beauty and the Beast story, only at this time with the internet and in modern day. And yeah, I'd honestly argue it's one of the best versions of Beauty and the Beast that I've ever seen. According to some of the things I've read, he apparently took some inspiration from the Disney cartoon version. And from that perspective, I'd say this is easily the best Disney remake I've ever seen. Which is funny because it's not a live action movie or a Disney movie at all. It's just a remake with the main inspiration being, one of the main inspirations being the cartoon one. So you do get some pieces here and there that just feels like, yeah, that came out of that. Like when the version of the Beast in this, which I believe it was like, well, he's known as the Beast, but I know it's also like a dragon. Well, he doesn't look like a dragon, but I know they refer to it as the dragon or something like that. But point being, like when he scares off Belle from the tower, from the castle, it's like the cartoon, like the Disney one. They dance in a ballroom, kind of like that, but it's done differently enough where it's like, you'll notice the inspiration, but you'll definitely, appreciate what they do with it. Basically, in this version of the story, like I said, it takes place in modern day. It's online. The main character signs up for this online thing called You, which is basically, think of it as any of those online sites with like the avatars or whatever. Like, I know there was like the VR chat or whatever, where like the whole thing is like, oh, it scans your, pretty much it scans you, and it makes like the best possible or the real version of you according to what it knows about you. And it's like weird, but it's interesting. It allows for a lot of interesting visuals, which from my understanding, they actually got a Disney animator to provide some of the designs for this, which neat on that part if it's true. In any case, this is a very beautiful movie. It's one of the most beautiful animated movies I've seen in recent memory, whether it's the 2D stuff or like the cel-shaded kind of stuff that you get out of the 2D, out of the online world. It's all very impressive to look at, and I really do appreciate a lot of the work that goes into this. But yeah, like, so, you got the girl, she creates, an avatar of herself. It's like the most beautiful avatar. She's got a beautiful singing voice, and she just becomes popular. Like, like everyone online wants to follow her. They make this whole big thing where she's giving concerts and everything, and the main character, her friend pretty much helps sets up like, okay, this is how we can make money off of it. This is how we can keep it anonymous. All that stuff. And then at some point with one of her concerts, the Beast shows up and pretty much ruins it. But it's like a whole thing where it's like, trying to make a statement. And the Beast already has like enemies in this online world, because there's like a whole group of people who are like kind of like superheroes, who pretty much are like determined to reveal who it is, to the point that like the leader of the group has like this weapon that can unveil who it is. And I'm like, okay, so he's just straight up doxing people at this point. But they never flat out say that, but it's the general implication that, yeah, this is why it's bad. And you get the sense that this is going to be a whole Gaston thing. And what's nice about it is that even though that's where you think it's headed, it's not where it actually goes. Like, automatically, the Belle character goes after, the Beast, trying to figure out, like, okay, what's wrong with you? What's bothering you? And the guys who are doing this, they are, trying to unveil it, but they're not like, oh yeah, we worship Belle or anything like that. Like, the main guy who we follow, well, don't follow, but like that we see out of these superhero characters, who has like the weapon that could dox someone, is pretty much like it's not like he's like, oh yeah, I deserve to be with Belle or anything. Like, he's just, generally speaking, is like, look, we're just kind of concerned about what's going on, because he's constantly fighting with a bunch of people, and it's just like, we want to reveal it just to make a statement, which bad, but it's not the same kind of selfish bullshit that we got with Gaston. Not that wasn't anything wrong, that was good for that story. It's just that for this story, it's good that it doesn't rely on that. Because, well, this one certainly has some love in it, some romance in it. It, by the end, without giving too much away, it becomes like, okay, so this is more of a story about the main girl learning to accept to move on, because her mother died years ago, and it's pretty much about how she's trying to learn, like, okay, because pretty much how the mother died was that she tried rescuing another kid while it was raining, and it was like a heavy rain to the point that like the river was pretty much about to drag this kid away. So she was like, okay, look, I have a life vest, I can swim, I'm gonna go over there and rescue that kid, which she was able to, but unfortunately she ended up sacrificing herself. So it's also the main character learning, okay, what are the benefits of doing the right thing, which is just doing the right thing. It doesn't matter if you'll be hurt. What matters is that you actually save someone from problems. And that ends up being the big thing with the dispersion, with the Beast, where it's not about, since of course it's within a digital world, it's not like, oh yeah, he's cursed and looks ugly in real life or anything like that. Like, no, it's just when she discovers, like, okay, who exactly is this Beast character, she realized, like, okay, this person's in a bad situation and I gotta, help them out. So that was really sweet. And it, again, it's not about her, like, oh, I'm, now in love with him and, we're gonna get married or anything like that. It's just about her realizing, like, okay, how to be selfless, how to be brave, and how to, accept the trauma of, losing her mother. And it's all that stuff. And, again, it's a really solid movie for that. Like I said, it very much is the best Disney remake, because quick aside with the whole Disney remakes thing, a lot of them are not very good, and the one that they did for Beauty and the Beast is definitely, at least to me, the worst of the live action remakes that they've ever done, because it's just a prime example of everything that's wrong with those movies. It's a whole thing where it's like the singing was bad, the things that decided to add to the story was bad, the things that decided to change from the story was bad, and it's just a big mess. And it's like, you really didn't need all this. And in doing this story this way, it just completely ruined a lot of what was good about this animated movie. This one, it takes its inspiration clearly. Like, even if I wasn't told that this was taking inspiration from the animated one, I would have noticed it right away, because there are some animation cues that I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a bit like the Disney version. But it does it in a way that's so well that I just can't complain, because it's like, it's taking it in a way that's, unique, but also feels familiar. And I just like that it makes the choices it does to differentiate itself from it. Like, again, it's not about, just, romantic love and, two people coming together, so much as it is about showing love and kindness through helping others, be better, like, not so much better versions of themselves, but pretty much, like, how to break at least, whether it's like their fear from doing certain things, or becoming, like, people that could live up to their potential, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, it's a beautiful movie. I saw it in the dub version, and it was still good. For the record, I prefer watching subs, but, whatever comes by whenever I get the chance to do these things is always nice, just because it's great. I mean, I'm not anti-dub, of course. I do like it, at least in this scenario, because one, it's a well-done dub, and two, it at least lets me sink in the visuals without having to worry that I'm losing out on some of the story beats. So when I do essentially rewatch it, I will be watching it in its original language. In this case, it was just because that was what was available to me when I streamed it. So it's what I took. I'm not sure if I could have easily changed it. I probably could have, but there's only so much time that I have to get around to all these things. So sometimes it's much easier to just let it play as it's supposed to, or as it has it anyways. In that case, it's like, yeah, it is a very well done dub. It's not one where they focus on getting like a bunch of celebrity talent. As far as I know, there's mostly voice actors in this. I mean, at least most of the people that I noticed were voice actors. I don't know if there was any big names on this. I mean, the most recognizable face in terms of live action acting that I noticed on the credits was they had the guy who plays the Deep in The Boys as I believe the leader of the superhero group, Chase Crawford, which great job, and he's a fun character in that show, so always nice to see him. But yeah, as far as I know, it's not something where it's like, oh yeah, let's just get I don't know, Matt Damon or whoever to be these characters, even though it's like there's no real reason. Like, they actually got people who do this professionally, and they match up pretty well. So I really just can't complain about it from that front. In terms of the visuals, it's just really gorgeous. I mean, the director of this has done internet features before. Like I said, with the Digimon movie, he did the first two segments, and especially in that second segment, they're going inside the internet. If you saw Summer Wars, that one also deals a lot with the internet, and then this one with it, it's like, even if he's not exactly presenting what the internet is actually like, it's one of the more interesting takes on how the internet looks like. Like, it really is like someone who took a visual of the internet based on their imagination from the early 90s when, this was, coming about, and just continues ramping it up, continues improving on that version of the internet than what it essentially has become, and it just makes for like this beautiful world that is constantly evolving. It's very clearly digital, but at the same time, it just feels so unique compared to other stuff. Like, it's not like the Emoji Movie or Ralph Breaks the Internet, where it's like, okay, yeah, it's like this very bland looking place, like it's like a metropolis or anything, but with a bunch of applications. Like, no, it actually looks like, at times, like it looks like space, like you're just in the skies, in the air, or it's like this, like I said, a digital world, and it's all very crazy, and it's all, very nicely put, especially with the characters in the world. Like, you've got, of course, the lovely designed Belle, but then you got, creatures like the Beast, or like the Friend becomes like this little ghost-like thing. You get other pop star like humans who are right there, but they also look kind of vampire-like. You got the superhero characters, and it's all just stuff that I'm like, man, I would love to live in an internet world like that, instead of having to be like the one that we actually have. But, regardless of it, it's still very interesting just to see that. When it's in the modern world, it's of course a little more, I don't want to say bland, but it is more normal. It's something where it's like, it looks like, anime that you've seen before, which isn't necessarily bad, because it still looks, very well animated. Like, the characters move very smoothly, the landscapes look beautiful, and the coloring is nice. It's just that, it's not gonna stand out as much as the online world, which kind of makes you feel like, man, I wish we would go back to that when we had to. And it spends a good amount of time when it's in the digital world, so it's not like it's something that it's lacking. It's just that it makes you want that in the story a lot more. It's kind of like Ready Player One, only in Ready Player One, oddly enough, I would argue it was the opposite way around, where I was kind of more interested in the stuff going on in the real world than I was when they were in the digital world. But that's mostly because that one falls under the whole, like, it's kind of like any kind of, Fortnite video game world that I've ever seen, especially with all the character references. In this one, it really does feel like it's its own unique beast, even though it's essentially the same thing that the director, Mamoru Hosada, has been pretty much doing since the Digimon movie. But it's, he just continues building upon his vision of the internet, and it's all really solid stuff. I mean, it's definitely the kind of thing where I'm like, I know a lot of people love going for like the Studio Ghibli anime movies, which people really got to stop thinking that it's only Studio Ghibli, because I see a lot of people, especially people who claim to be bigger anime fans than me, who think everything is Ghibli, or to in worse extent, think everything, any anime movie that comes out that isn't based on like a pre-existing show or whatever is a Miyazaki feature. And I'm like, you guys are ones that are walking around acting like the biggest fans around. I'm upfront that I'm like, I don't really care about this stuff, and I like the stuff that's good, I like the stuff that I enjoy, whatever. So the fact that I know that this stuff is not all the same and you don't is worrisome. But I'm not here to knock on those people. I mean, I get it. It's just some people are proud of this, their own false understandings, versus me, who is like, no, you're wrong. That stuff is bad, but whatever. The point is that it definitely is one of the better looking anime movies that I've seen, better than a lot of Studio Ghibli stuff. And like I said, in terms of just animation in general, it's one of the best looking ones in recent memory. I would honestly argue that in terms of the animated features released this year in the US, it's easily the best looking one, beating out stuff like The Bad Guys or Bob's Burgers, which I know some people might not consider that one to be, a great looking one, but it's a beautiful looking 2D movie as far as I'm concerned, so fuck you. It looks better than like Turning Red, the Pixar movie, or Lightyear. Not that I think any of those even look bad, it's just that they don't look this good. The online stuff is great. The stuff we're interested in the real world, still beautiful, not as beautiful, but it's just impressive to look at all the same. And honestly, it's the kind of stuff where I'm like, I really wish we would get more 2D animated movies on the big screen, because, we got a lot of stuff that we could still be wowed by that we just don't get anymore because of one reason or another. And that's disappointing, that because CG is like the hotness, it's like the stuff that actually made money, which I understand, but that doesn't mean we should dump a whole art form out of theaters, because realistically, we just don't get enough of these. And while people for the longest time said, like, hey, well, Japan is safe on this because they're still doing their stuff, that may not be true in a few years, since we're seeing more CG features coming out of Japan. And while it's fine, as long as it's good, I don't mind too much. It is disappointing to see that even they're moving away from this stuff, and it's like, we really need to support this form, especially because, again, this one was a really good looking one, but on top of that, it is just a really good feature. And I don't know, not that necessarily CG is always safe. It's not. Sometimes you do get a lot of risky features. Sometimes you don't. But I just feel like we need a bit more risks in terms of just how we see these stories. And at this point, this feels like a risk, just seeing movies that are 2D come to life. And I don't know, it's just, I really wish we would have more, is what it is at the end of the day. I mean, I would imagine that even if this movie wasn't all that great, it would still look good. Like, if the story wasn't all that good, if the plot wasn't all that good, it would still be impressive to look at, and it would be like, this could inspire other, artists, or to push it even further than what it is. I mean, talking about another movie that came out a while ago, Klaus, which I've talked about in the show before, that was one where it was like, it's a 2D movie, and it really pushed what we could expect to see from the art form in ways that we just hadn't in years. And that was partially because, well, you don't really get a lot of these in theaters, but also because it just really took advantage of, like, okay, what can we do with modern tech that hasn't been done before? And it's just beautiful. Like, it's some of the most beautiful movies that I've seen in recent memory, whether it's, in that case, that one was years ago, and then Belle, it was just the past year that we had this, and it's like, man, I just want more. Both more of the good stories and more of just in general. I mean, it's... We need more. It is what it is. It's just impressive. But yeah, like I said, even in the story, it's great. Like I mentioned, I do like how they took the story of Beauty and the Beast and enhanced it in a way that makes sense for modern day, and presented a version of love that feels very different in terms of, it's not just, like, oh, girl meets guy and they both fall in love and they get together. It's actually about, how you can show that kindness and care in other people, and results in just something beautiful and something that really stood out for this year. Just showing, characters dealing with their own grief, and, without spoiling too much, there's a bit of abuse in there, and how, people, handle that in the wake of losing loved ones. And it's just an incredible movie. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but that's because it really is. It's definitely one where I'm like, you guys gotta watch it as soon as you can after you listen to this. And if anything, this is one of those cases where I'm like, yes, I sincerely hope that, if nothing else, my whole review rant podcast thing is just convincing you, like, okay, I gotta seek out more of these things that aren't ready to be available. Like, it's good to have, like, the popular stuff come in right away, the Pixars, the DreamWorks, all that stuff, but there's a whole world of animation that we just don't get enough of behind the scenes, and this kind of stuff is necessary. And of course, if you were in Japan, this probably was a much bigger movie than it was here. I mean, with the US, I think it only had like 2, maybe 3 weeks max in theaters, and it was just like, not a Fathom event, but it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's like a select screening kind of deal, versus over there where I would imagine it was probably all over the place. But I don't really know. Point is, I think it deserves to be seen. It's great. I love it. And I think a lot of you will love it too. So give it a watch, whether you're a fan of anime or not. This is not one of those things where it matters. It's just a really well told story. I prefer it over the Disney Beauty and the Beast, which again makes this the best Disney remake as far as I'm concerned. It's just a really beautiful movie. And with that, I don't think I have much else to say. So thank you for listening. This has been Octaviano, and as always, I hope to see you again next time.
But I don't know what to do.
Thank you for coming on and listening to me today. If you enjoyed it, you can always subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can follow my podcast. It's on Podbean, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. And if you want to support me even more, there's always the option of Patreon. Patreon is a great way to support artists. And with that, you can always put in $1 or even more. It's all up to you, all just to help produce the show and other things I may do. Thank you again, and I hope to see you in the coming future.